Hello, my beautiful community, and welcome to Rewilding Wellness Wednesdays. I'm Dr. Kristy Vanacore, and today's episode is yet another conversation from the heart, one that I believe every parent, caregiver, teacher, and healer needs to hear. I want to talk about what happens when our nervous systems are in flight, when we live our lives as though we're being chased by a mountain lion, even when there is no danger. It's the nervous system's way of saying, run, escape, do, fix. It's that restless hum under the surface that keeps us moving, producing, striving, even when our bodies are begging for stillness. This is something that I see all the time in my private practice and something I've lived myself as a mother, a medicine woman, and just a girl in the world trying to hold it all together in a culture that glorifies busy. So many of us are living in survival mode, running from task to task, deadline to deadline, retreat to retreat, mistaking motion for healing. But true health and wellness begins when we learn how to stay. We call this living busy, productive, high functioning, managing, but really, our bodies are endlessly whispering, I'm not safe. So today, join me. Let's slow it down. Let's talk about the states of the nervous system, what they mean, what they look like, and how we can begin together to return to regulation. That is what's on our agenda today on Rewilding Wellness. Again, I'm Dr. Kristy. I am a medicine woman, author, lyricist, ceremonialist, prominent trailblazer, offering a different but essential approach known as Rewilding Wellness for adults, children, teens, and families, utilizing multidimensional and bioquantum practices for holistic healing and thriving. After witnessing the staggering rates of chronic illness in adults and children and the ineffective and disempowering practices of traditional medical care, I recognized my life's mission was to bring the health and wellness industries back to their roots to reconnect people with their innate self-healing capacities. So for over 2 decades, my work has integrated mind, body, and spirit and honors the truth that we are vibrational beings and that healing can only be birthed from the union of science with soul. As we heal together through frequency, embodiment, cellular recalibration, and regeneration, I guide individuals and families to rediscover their body's brilliance and timeless wisdom so we can realign with the natural synergy of all of creation. I am here to light the way as you remember your roots, rekindle your instincts, and reclaim your sovereignty. Each week on this Rewilding Wellness Wednesday podcast, we gather together to remember what it really means to be well in body, mind, spirit, and soul. This is a place to gather, to listen, to learn, to ask questions, a place where ancient wisdom and modern science meet, and where we stop trying to fix ourselves and instead begin remembering who we are. Each week, we gather not just for information, but for transformation and connection, because rewilding wellness isn't something we do alone. It's something we do together. And in doing so, we become part of something bigger than ourselves. So I'm thrilled to have you here today talking about a topic that is near and dear to my heart. And that is because it is vital. It is so vital that we understand how we work so we can make it work for us. If we don't understand our essential architecture, we can't make it work for us. Okay. So I want to begin by starting, I want to start with a little kind of like a nervous system 101, talking about the language of our body's safety and connection system. Okay. So our nervous systems are our body's storyteller. Okay. It's the part of you that is constantly asking one question and one question only. Am I safe? Okay. Every thought, every sensation, every interaction, every one of our life experiences runs through this filter of am I safe? And when the body feels safe, it can rest, digest, connect, create. But when it doesn't, it mobilizes energy for survival. Okay, so I want to explore these states of the nervous system together because, again, understanding them helps you decode them so that you can understand your own behavior and your children's behavior too. This is vital. So your autonomic nervous system has three primary states. Okay, and this is based on Dr. Stephen Porges's polyvagal theory. Okay, so we have three primary states of the nervous system. First one is flight or fight. Okay, we've all heard about this. This is the sympathetic state of the nervous system. This is your body's activation mode. Okay, so this is where your body is mobilized to either run or to fight. Okay, your heart is racing, your mind is spinning, your breath is shallow. This is not a bad thing. It's the protective thing, right? So let's talk a little bit about fight. This is when your body says, there is a predator here. There is a danger here, and I have to confront this. So in this state, energy rushes to your limbs, right? Your jaw tightens, your voice might rise, your fists might clench. You feel the urge to defend and argue or control, right? So think about behavior here. Think about that, right? You're wanting to argue, defend, or control, getting defensive. That's fight, right? An everyday example, you snap at your child for spilling milk, not because of the milk on the floor, but your system is overloaded and perceives the chaos as danger. And your nervous system is desperately trying to protect you, right? Let's talk about flight now for a moment. Okay, this is when the body says, there's a threat here. There's a predator coming, and we don't have what it takes to fight it off. We've got to get away. Okay, and this is the state I'm going to focus on primarily today. Flight looks like endless busyness in the day-to-day. Okay, this is the rushing, the multitasking, the scrolling endlessly, the endless filling of your calendar. This is the need to constantly fix and clean. If you're constantly cleaning the house, moving, the constant need to get ahead. But underneath all of that movement is one truth. You're trying to outrun discomfort, not just stress, but you're trying to outrun yourself. Okay, so an everyday example of what this looks like, you overcommit, your day is booked, then you work late, you get home, you start cleaning the kitchen obsessively. You can't sit still because slowing down makes your mind feel even louder. And the body believes that if it can just keep moving, it will stay safe, right? Because your body's been conditioned to believe that movement will lead you to be safe because either you'll be running away from the threat or fighting it, right? But what's really happening is that you're avoiding presence because presence in that moment feels way too vulnerable, okay? So that was the first state of the nervous system, the flight or fight. Okay, the second state of the nervous system is what we call freeze and fawn, or the dorsal state. This is shut down. Okay, this is collapse. This is numbness. This is the system's last resort when it feels there's no way out. Okay, so this is similar to an animal in the wild who is being approached by a predator and does not have the resources to get away or to fight it, so it plays dead. Right? When escape no longer feels like a possible option, the body shuts down. So what does this look like? This is when you feel numb, when you feel detached, when you feel dissociated, when you are going through the motions, but you're not really there at all, right? My dog is growling in the background. Okay, so everyday example of this, imagine you come home after a busy day and you collapse on the couch. The kids have gone to bed and you find yourself with your phone in your hand and you're scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and scrolling and you zone out and hours go by. And you're like, I'm just so tired. But what's really happening is this sort of like protective paralysis. Your system has flipped its circuit breaker and it says, I'm too overwhelmed to keep running, right? So we fawn, and the body says, I'll just keep you dissociated. I'll just keep you focused on something else, and then you'll be safe. Okay. So, how this also looks in our day to day life is the state of appeasement, people pleasing, over giving, over apologizing, silencing your own needs to avoid conflict, right? This is saying yes to volunteering at the PTA once again, right? This is saying yes to fix all the problems, even though you're absolutely exhausted. And the irony here is that this fawn response, this freeze and fawn response, is actually one of the most socially rewarded trauma responses. Because guess what? The world praises selfless people, right? The selfless parents, the endless volunteer PTA parents, right? They're the ones doing everything, and we praise them. Oh my gosh, they're so quick to step in and help. They're wonderful people. But they're just simply depleted people, and they're running endlessly, right? So that's the second state of the nervous system, the freeze fawn or the dorsal state. Okay. Third state of the nervous system, this is what we call ventral vagal. This is all about safety and connection. This is a state of regulation. So those first two states, the flight or fight and the freeze or fawn, are dysregulation, right? In the state of threat. Now, in this ventral vagal state, where we're talking about safety and connection, this is where we're regulated. The body now says, I'm safe to be here. So we experience calm and alertness and curiosity and compassion and play and connection because we feel safe enough to engage with life, right? This is when we can laugh easily, we can think clearly, and when we can respond instead of react, right? So, imagine your child is melting down and you just take a deep breath instead of yelling, right? Or if you can sit on the floor and play ball in the kitchen with your kids, or simply be without needing to fix something or without needing to run. This is the state where healing, learning, and loving can happen. Okay. Now, let me talk to you about how these three states work. Okay. So we are meant to flow between these states all day long. Okay. We're not meant to stay in that safety ventral vagal state all the time. That'd be like flatlining, right? We're meant to kind of wave between these three states. Okay, something happens, we respond, then we recover, right? Then we might shut down because we're tired, then we reset, we get energy up again, right? So we kind of flow in between those states. But in our modern world, most parents, well, most humans, never mind just parents, are stuck in chronic activation, chronic flight or fight. Okay. And I want to focus on flight and this functional flight. Okay. Because this is what I see so many of us in, myself included, from time to time. Okay. So we're running from the alarm clock to the inbox, to the carpool, to the next commitment. And even when the body is sitting still, the mind is doing sprints. I call it the mental parkour, right? Your mind is doing flip-flops, even if the body is still. So this is functional flight. So you look like you're managing your life, but internally your system is on overdrive, right? When we live in flight mode, everything in our lives becomes a potential threat. The messy kitchen, your child's tantrum, your spouse's silence, even stillness itself. Okay, because we are the most overstimulated generation in history. I know generations before us, look, generations before us had wars, we had political unrest, everything we're experiencing in the world now, we've experienced before. But the level of stimulation is unprecedented. The way that technology functions and has exploded, that is unprecedented. So we are the most overstimulated generation in history, flooded with endless information, notifications, comparisons, expectations. This keeps us in flight all the time. And you can see it in how we live. The racing to chauffeur the kids everywhere on time, constantly doing for our families, but rarely being with them. This is something I hear so much from a lot of mothers. I'm serving them food, I'm cleaning their butts, I'm doing their laundry. But are you really experiencing life with them? Most of the time, no. And then not to mention the guilt that we feel when we stop and try to rest, right? We're always needing to plan the next thing, the next project, the next vacation, the next event, not realizing, right, that this motion is because we feel unsafe. Do you know how many women and men alike sit in my office talking about how they daydream about their next yoga class or their next retreat that they could go on, or they daydream about escaping to Cozumel on on an isolated beach somewhere, and they don't realize that the thing they're trying to escape is the very life that they've built. The very life that they've been busting their ass to build is what they're trying to escape. And this is what I call avoidance disguised as achievement, right? Because we think we're managing the stress, but really we're avoiding all of the true feelings underneath it: grief, fear, loneliness, uncertainty. And here's the thing, parents. When we avoid ourselves, we model avoidance for our children. They learn that feelings are threats to outrun instead of experiences to move through, right? Our bodies that are so wired to believe that movement equals safety because the old ancestral body, right, that is our fundamental architecture, thinks that we're escaping danger. But what happens when our kids grow up in homes where everyone's always running? Well, they learn to live in flight too. Their little nervous systems take cues from ours. So if mommy or daddy are tense, distracted, and constantly doing, guess what? Their developing bodies interpret that as it's not safe to slow down. We've got to keep running. And this is where the concept of co-regulation comes in. This is one of the most powerful yet overlooked medicines in parenting. And I'm going to talk about that now. Co-regulation. Okay. Co-regulation means that our children's nervous systems sort of borrow ours until theirs are fully developed. So they literally sync with our state. Okay. So co-regulation is sort of this art and science of being a steady nervous system for someone else, especially your children. This can also be your spouse or a parent or a good friend. Okay. But this is exactly how children's nervous systems begin to regulate, by syncing with ours. Their developing bodies take cues from ours. They're watching our tone of voice, our breathing patterns. They're watching our eye movements. They are all cues of safety. When you're grounded, they can ground. When you're rushing, they're going to rush. When you're taking a nice deep breath, you're teaching them that stillness is safe. When you can't even catch your breath, they don't know what that feels like. When you're endlessly stressed out, endlessly trying to strive and achieve, that's what they feel they have to do. And not every kid can keep up with that, nor should they. Now, this is not about being calm all the time at all. It's about being real. and returning to safety together. That is why regulating your own nervous system is the greatest gift that you can give to your children. Your grounded, regulated, flexible presence is the medicine that their body recognizes and needs. Otherwise, if we're anxious, they're anxious, right? This isn't just a theory, this is biology. As parents, we are a tuning fork. When our tone vibrates with peace and patience and presence, our child's system can harmonize. But when our tuning fork is vibrating with fear and urgency and overwhelm and stress and distraction, well, theirs will too. So this is why self-regulation isn't a selfish thing to focus on as a parent. You know how many parents sit across from me and I say this to them and they say, I can't focus on me until after I help my child. Well, guess what? This is the help that your children need. Self-regulation is sacred service. Because when you regulate your nervous system, you are actually transforming the auric field or the energy field around you, which means that you can single-handedly shift the frequency of your entire family and home. Now, our ancestors, they knew this. You know, in my Southern Italian roots, you know, the indigenous elders of the indigenous elders of the Americas, you know, all of these ancestral places, parenting was a sacred act. It was a sacred act of energetic attunement, right? Picture this, you know, mothers singing lullabies to their children while stirring a pot of soup, and fathers teaching through rhythm with steady presence and ritual. You know, the home itself was medicine because it pulsed with warmth and song and rhythm and a softness and an intention and a reverence. Our ancestors knew this long before neuroscience coined these terms and confirmed it. Right? In these ancient cultures, parenting was in and of itself a sacred ceremony. And co-regulation was this dance between adult and child and also land and lineage, because we are inextricably linked. We are one with the land and with all of the earth. Right? So when the mothers sang and the fathers taught through rhythm and breath and the elders grounded in storytelling with the energy of the tribe, you know, this is nervous system wisdom in practice before we even had words like polyvagal theory. You know, today science calls it neuroception, the body's subconscious way of scanning for safety, right? But the ancient ones, they had a much simpler word for it, yet much more powerful one. And it's love, right? So today's modern neuroscience just proves what the ancestors practiced, which is that our nervous systems are social systems. Our energy fields are constantly communicating and shaping one another's physiology, our heart rate, our brain's chemistry, right? The science of co-regulation is just simply modern language for what the old ones knew, that love is the original nervous system healer. Unconditional, steady presence, returning to center, returning to what's important. So what does this look like in practice? How can today's modern families integrate some of the beautiful wisdom that our ancestors knew? Well, I'm going to share with you just a few ways for right now in this moment that we can integrate safety and rhythm and connection and invite that back into your home. Okay, so, and these are in no particular order. Start with the body. Every time you're about to speak, pause and take a breath. Place a hand on your heart and one on your belly. Just feel yourself land in the moment. Your children will feel this too. The second way is to create daily rhythmic rituals. So rhythm regulates. Okay, so morning sunlight exposure, family dinners, evening walks. Okay, these things that we repeat form patterns that regulate the vagus nerve, which is the main nerve in our body, connecting mind and body, our main cranial nerve. And it's what communicates safety to the body. So create those rhythms, the same thing every day, that kids know what to look forward to, and that you do as a parent as well. It grounds us in something bigger than ourselves. Pause before reacting. When you're aware that your child's behavior triggers you, take a moment to pause, to regulate before responding. By doing so, you're modeling emotional safety, right? Slow down your overall rhythm, okay? Notice your general rhythm of your life. Notice the pace at which you walk. Notice the pace at which you talk, okay? Notice where you find yourself running and rushing, okay? Notice it, and then make the intentional decision to slow it down. Talk a little slower. Walk a little softer. And you can whisper to your body, we're safe now, right? We can ground ourselves through our senses, so we can step outside barefoot, right? We can breathe in a scented candle or, some kind of earthy scent. We can touch something textured. We can look around and simply connect with our five senses to the present moment. And this body anchoring allows us to ground. Okay. Another thing we can do is we can integrate, many of you know I teach the 4 universal healing salves: singing, storytelling, silence, dancing, movement, these ancestral practices that help us to regulate energy and emotions and connection. So sing, dance around your kitchen, tell stories, of the younger days, honor silence together as a family. Those are very powerful regulators. Remember that safety is key, okay? And that as a parent, your tone of voice, the emotion that is communicated through your eyes and by your presence, these matter more than any parenting strategy that exists. Okay, I'm going to say that again. Safety is your medicine as a parent. Your tone of voice, your eyes, your presence, these matter more than any parenting strategy. Healing and growth can only happen in spaces where nervous systems feel safe together. And remember, you're going to lose regulation from time to time. That's okay. All right. This is not about perfection here. Because there's also a lot of healing that can come. And some of you have heard me say this, when we have to repair the rupture. So if we lose our cool, that's okay. Take a breath, reconnect, recompose, recalibrate, and model that grace for your child so that they know that we're not striving for perfection, right? We're striving for presence. This is probably one of the most important and one of my most favorite topics to talk about when it comes to anything really related to health and wellness. Our nervous system is so vital to our functioning, right? Parenting in these modern times is definitely not easy, that's for sure. But I do know that it remains sacred work. In fact, the most sacred work that there is. It's work that can actually restore the very rhythm of this entire world. The world does not need calmer parents. It needs regulated parents. It needs parents who can hold space for chaos without drowning in it. So hopefully this conversation was helpful. And as you move through your world for the rest of the day, notice the moments when your body wants to run. Pay attention. Notice that urgency from within. Sometimes it's a shaking or a rattling or a vibration or I just need to move. I need to run. I want to get out of here. We feel antsy. We feel anxious. And when that happens, pause. Feel your feet on the earth. Take a deep breath into your belly, filling your belly. And remind your system, we're safe now. Right? Ask yourself, what if instead of running, I stayed? What if this moment, right here, right now, is the retreat? Because when you learn to stay, your children learn that safety is not found in an escape. And way too many children nowadays believe that that's the truth, that safety is found in an escape. And what that escape looks like is everything from drugs to sex, right? To dangerous situations that kids get themselves in when they don't learn how to stay, when they don't learn how to be uncomfortable and know that they are resilient enough to stay. Your children need to learn that safety is not found in escape, it's found in connection. That is the medicine that heals generations. Your kids don't need a perfect parent, they need a regulated one. So when you tend to your nervous system, you're also tending to theirs. And when you tend to your home, ultimately, you're tending to this beautiful earth. So if this message really resonated with you, if you are a caregiver or parent or a healer or a teacher, if you're ready to explore how to regulate your own nervous system and rewild your family's wellness, I'd be honored to support you. Reach out. Get in touch with me to learn more about my private sessions or upcoming Rewilding for Parents, my small group series, where we explore everything from nervous system repair, co-regulation, rituals for family harmony, all of it. And we do it together in a loving and non-judgmental environment where we support one another. Because at the end of the day, you guys, it takes a village not only to raise a child, but to raise parents, to raise a family, and to uplift this world. Thank you so much for joining me on this week's Rewilding Wellness Wednesdays. I hope this was helpful. Please give me your feedback. Let me know what part of it resonated, what part of it you're going to try, what part of it you need help with. Let's keep the conversation going. Shoot me an email, send me a private message, give me a shout on the phone. I'd love to chat with you. Until then, have a beautiful and blessed day.